I'm not sure how else to get anybody to listen to me, so I decided to record this meeting. I'm pretty tired, might fumble over some words, but I need someone to listen to me because no one's listening. I've tried my best. I wrote this on March 14th, about 18 days after Ukraine was invaded. So here goes. To all good people in all places everywhere, we live in a world in peril. It's not easy to look at, but we must make ourselves see. On February 24th, we watched in horror as Vladimir Putin and the forces doing his bidding invaded the sovereign nation of Ukraine. Since then, we've watched President Zelensky lead his nation in the fight that will determine the fate of Ukrainians for generations to come. We've watched the Ukrainian people, every man, woman, and child, defy the odds and resist the darkness and inhuman cruelty sweeping across their nation, driven by powers and principalities made manifest by the sick, twisted, evil mind of one man, a soulless man, a man with no heart or mercy or compassion or regard for the sanctity of life. For over 342 hours now and counting, we've watched from the comfort of our homes as the Ukrainian homeland is methodically blown apart, reduced to rubble. We've watched the images of the innocents lie lifeless in the streets, the lives of pregnant women and the unborn cut short, and entire families who survived for generations wiped away in a single day. None of us could imagine the hope and promise of this new year would be shattered this way. We've watched over 2 million human beings flee the land their forefathers fought and died for, so future generations of Ukrainians would live in a free nation. We watch spectators to a nation being eviscerated by one man. Pundits scratch their heads, muse about how surprised they are that Ukraine has not yet fallen. We hear the outlook is grim. We go about our lives thinking Ukraine is far away and not our problem. We're wrong. NATO leaders aren't leading. Study why NATO was founded, as I have. It's not hard to learn. You can look at it on the internet anytime. Today's member countries of NATO comprise only 16% of the habitable land of our tiny planet, representing only 12% of the almost 8 billion people living on this earth. Yet, according to the NATO Public Diplomacy Vision press release of June 11, 2021, defense expenditures for NATO countries, 2014 to 2021, NATO member nations spent over $7.6 trillion between 2014 and 21. That's trillion with a T. In just 8 years. If you study, you'll learn NATO's stated purpose is to secure peace in Europe, to promote cooperation amongst its members and to guard their freedom, to counter the threat from the Soviet Union we saw after World War II. NATO's website says NATO commits allies to democracy, individual liberty, and the rule of law. I'm not seeing that commitment in real life. Take the time to study our Declaration of Independence of the United States. When the original 13 colonies declared their independence on July 4th, 1776, I cannot believe the framers of our Constitution, builders all, believe the truth held self-evident that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, only applied to them or a select group or people who look like them or in NATO countries. Just take the time to study Ukraine's Declaration of Independence, the one from January 22nd, 1918. You will discover, as I did, Ukraine's reasons for declaring independence are not that different from the reasons put forth by the Continental Congress of our nation, the first 15 colonies in 1776. I'm going to read you this excerpt from Ukraine's first Declaration of Independence. It's hard to read. 4 years of a ferocious war have weakened our country and population. Factories do not produce goods. Industry has slowed down. Railroads are in disarray. Money continues to fall in value. There's less bread. Famine looms. Mobs of robbers and thieves have multiplied throughout the countryside, especially during the times when the army has swarmed from the front, causing slaughter, disorder, and ruin on our land. Yet the good people of Ukraine, their struggle continues, threatened again as it was then. This is not the first time Ukraine has been invaded by Russian troops and military units. Now, 104 years later, President Zelensky echoes the final sentence from Ukraine's 1918 Declaration of Independence. Until that time, we call upon all citizens of the independent Ukrainian People's Republic to stand relentlessly on guard of the freedom and rights won by our people, and to defend their fate with all their might from all enemies of the peasants and workers. Words are easy to write. Actions are harder. Hardest of all is to watch inaction as entire people are systematically exterminated. Vladimir Putin is doing this openly in the streets, not behind the barbed wire of a concentration camp. Still, we watch, even though we've seen this before, more than one time, not counting this time. The time of watching is past. It's time to deliver. This is a time to step and stand shoulder to shoulder with the good people of Ukraine. Sanctions are a political and economic response to a military problem. I'm grateful we trusted our military to join and lead the fight against Hitler's reign of terror, since I don't believe economists and pundits could have won that war, or the First World War, the war to end all wars. Putin's rage threatens to burn the world down. He's a terrorist, arsonist, and should be called one. Vladimir Putin must be defeated at any cost. When the storm is raging and when the wind and rain threaten to extinguish the flames of freedom, that's when it's most important to stoke the fires of liberty. Or we can watch as liberty is blown out and the dark envelops us all and the world grows colder and uglier. We're good at watching. I'm a simple man, a cabinet maker of quiet faith, able to discern the simple questions we all must answer. Do we have the heart to fight? Or is there a hole where our heart should be? Do we value our soul as a free nation, or have we traded it for complacency and an imagined sense of comfort and the latest reality show? Do we still understand courage, or are we confused by apathy? We've chosen personalities over patriotism, popularity over progress, party over the people. We've chosen fear over faith. We wallow in otherness, choosing separateness over unity. We truly lost our way. We've only to look to the Ukrainian people, willing to lay down their lives to understand how far we've strayed. We sing about the home of the brave and the land of the free, but I wonder, are we still brave? Do we still cherish freedom? Each of us must answer these questions. Each of us must look inside and decide. As a tax-paying citizen, I have questions and I'd like some answers, please. Why are the luxurious fleets and aircraft and limousines used to carry leaders to and fro as a practice diplomacy not packed with supplies and food and medicine for the Ukrainian people? Why are they not filled with desperate mothers and children and babies and the elderly and infirm when they fly back to our United States of America? The leaders I see in the media carry nary a box, nor help helpless people get to safety. What about the other heads of states and their fleets of shiny planes and limousines? Why do we still watch in freezing cold weather while Ukrainians walk through the day and stumble through the night while death comes to them at every minute? Explain it to me. Why are the USNS Comfort and USNS Mercy not deployed to bring life-saving medical care and medicine to the country ravaged by a war for over 18 days and counting? Are you worried it will cost too much? Are you worried Putin's forces will attack them? Surely we would fiercely defend our Navy's hospital ships, converted from oil tankers, to do the right thing and cast fear aside, like President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people. Why are humanitarian quarters bombed? Any hope of safe haven dashed by the sounds of explosions, gunfire, and screams? Why are NATO allies not protecting people fleeing and the people trying to help them flee? Why have the citizens of 30 NATO countries, 27 being in Europe, been expected to watch while between 2014 and 2021 alone, NATO spent $7.6 trillion with a T on weapons and munitions and people to fight for freedom, but refuses to fight for freedom now? The stakes couldn't be higher. We have to go all in. The stakes are highest of all for the Ukrainian people, for the nation built by generations of Ukrainians. They have the most to lose, and they're losing the most. I can't know what others think, but I want to see what my tax dollars bought me. I expect Putin's forces to be obliterated, his capacity to wage his personal war torn down permanently. I choose to believe there are good people in the lands of Russia, and I believe they want real freedom too. They don't want to see Putin's war take us all down either. And they don't want this to be like Afghanistan again, just like us. I'm a woodworker, blessed to work with my hands. I also think a lot. This is what I think. Convene the United Nations in emergency session. Those member nations that don't show up will lose their one opportunity to put a stake in the ground and answer a simple question. Which nations choose to watch as babies are killed, women are raped, and a nation is burned to the ground, all because we don't have the spine to defeat one man, a soulless, heartless man? Make yourselves known and include nations not recognized by the United Nations, like Taiwan and Kosovo. All earthlings have a stake in this. Take the votes and see where nations stand. Put the world on notice that free nations and good people will stop Putin, regardless of the tally. Vetoes don't count. And any nation who's willing to watch, let alone help, one man conduct his mass murder on the morning news every day, best step aside and sit this one out. Yes, it's horrific to say we'll do whatever is called for to win, but it's most horrible to watch our supposed safety behind our borders. Someone said borders are lines drawn on maps by politicians. You can't see borders from space. They aren't meant to hide behind. 2, bring the full power, might, and precision of our collective militaries to bear on this terror, expanding up exponentially unchecked. We have the best trained, best equipped, most capable, most professional military leaders on this planet. They've dedicated their lives to keeping the peace by their willingness and ability to fight to keep it and win. Let them do their job. Look around. Despite the best efforts and intentions of professional politicians and diplomats from across the world, their plan isn't working. We need a different skill set to stop this. The Ukrainian people are experts at this, having learned how to do what needs to be done to survive as a nation and a people in 18 short days. We must help them more. Direct our military commanders to do what they trained to do with the weapons and munitions we paid for, at the expense of maintaining our infrastructure, or investing in schools and teachers and communities, or keeping poison out of our drinking water. Sanctions have done nothing anywhere but make life harder for everyday people. You, me, our families, our communities, everywhere. Iran is closer to developing nuclear capabilities than ever. North Korea has advanced their military capabilities and now include ICBMs, while the former occupant of the White House and Oval Office boasted he knows more than the generals, exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un, and now calls Putin genius and savvy. He still refuses to condemn his friend, Vlad the terrorist, the smart one. China and Russia have developed and deployed capabilities in hypersonic technology and space weaponry well beyond our own. They're able and willing to destroy satellites or pluck them out of space to advance their agenda. We should steel ourselves for the sacrifices and hardships that will surely come. They're here already. Remind ourselves that freedom has a price. Life is priceless. Hope is priceless. But liberty comes at a high cost, and there's no freedom without sacrifice, just as there is no tyranny without a tyrant. If we cannot unite to defeat one tyrant man, one evil, heartless, soulless man, I would rather go down fighting the good fight, knowing I did what I could when I stand before my maker. To President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., I say this: Mr. President, you sit behind the Resolute desk hewn 142 years ago from the timbers of the HMS Resolute. It carries a presidential coat of arms, ordered to be so fitted by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who died before he saw it fitted so. President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was the first to use a Resolute desk in the Oval Office. As a cabinet maker, I know the strength and endurance of the oak tree. That's why we built ships of oak. Resolute is defined many ways. I like them all, but I like this one most. Resolute is an adjective. Admirably purposeful, determined, and unwavering. Mr. President, I believe in my heart you strive for peace, struggling to balance what to do. You and other world leaders are rightly worried about starting World War III. Mr. President, World War III is here. It's Putin's war. It's not a war with Russia. Putin's declared war is terror war on the Russian people too. They know it. Putin's war has already started, and we're way behind, and we're losing at great unfathomable cost to the people of Ukraine. Now Putin has staged on NATO borders and evolved a part of the world. We're going to lose Odessa. We procrastinate while Putin pillages. We debate while Ukrainian citizens and others living in their nation die. As a patriot, I'd rather remember you took action, made the hard choices, and resolved to fight for freedom. I don't want my memory of the leader of the free world to be one of remorse and shame because we were afraid to escalate. Every hour, Vladimir Putin, tyrant-man, is escalating his terror war, emboldened to commit more outrageous, obscene acts of cruelty. Every hour and every minute, more Ukrainians die. Every day, I listen to hear and look to see if the world is paying attention. We're finally listening and not looking away. And every night, I pray for you with my wife and all leaders and peoples of free nations to resolve to do everything in our power to stop Vladimir Putin. To elected officials of free nations at the highest levels of government, I ask this: can you still hear the voice of one citizen? Sadly, I'm doubtful. From where I sit, it's not that you can't hear the pleas from an entire nation in their most desperate of hour. You can hear and you can see, but you aren't listening and you look away. And if you aren't listening to the cries for help and solidarity from an entire freedom-loving nation, I have little hope you'll listen to me. Please restore my faith. Take the time and listen and hear what one citizen has to say. Most importantly, I plead you hear and listen to President Zelensky and the people of Ukraine and help them as much as humanly possible as they stare down one inhuman man, one 69-year-old inhuman man, who is heartless and cruel and has no value for the sanctity of life. President Biden, I have a favor to ask of you. My wife Renee and I resolved early on to open our home to Ukrainian families fleeing for their lives, to share our blessings and the grace we live under, to offer respite and refuge to the weary. Please help us do that before it's too late. Sincerely and with all respect to all good people in all places, everywhere. C. Thomas Lane, patriot, citizen, United States of America. We got to stop him.